everyone. Do you have a good memory? Has your memory ever played tricks on you? Forgetfulness often puts you in a tight spot. Today I am going to tell you a story about Bepin Chaudhary's lapse of memory. He is Bepin Chaudhary and how he forgets a part of his life and what happens next. Let's see. To stand by thick and thin times of your friend is very important. This is actually the moral of the lesson. First, about the writer Satyajit Ray. You must have heard his name, a very renowned writer. Was an Indian film director, writer and illustrator. He was one of the greatest filmmakers of his time. These are the main characters in the story: Bepin Chaudhary, Chunilal, Dinesh Mukherjee, Dr. Paresh Chanda and Parimal Ghosh. The learning outcomes, word meanings. Okay, now let's start with the story. This is a story about a person whose name is Bepin Chaudhary. One day when he goes to the market, as his habit, he meets a man there, but he doesn't recognize that person. That person is silently observing him for a long time. So Bepin asked him, "Do I know you?" He said, "Yes, of course, I know you very well. You come to this market every Monday and you are fond of reading lots of storybooks like thrillers, ghost stories and so on. I know you very well." Mr. Bepin, he was surprised how it is, because he had not known this person for a very long time. Now that person gives his introduction as Parimal Ghosh. He says, "I am Parimal Ghosh and I have been with you for a long time. And when you went to Ranchi in 58, I know all about that. You were with Mr. Dinesh Mukherjee." Now Mr. Bepin is surprised. "How do I know you?" Then he tells, "In 58 you went to Ranchi." He says, "No, you are mistaken. I am not that person, because in 58 I had gone to my friend's house to Kanpur. But that person, Parimal, is determined." He said, "No, I know you." Then he tells him some intimate details, like he doesn't like hotel food. So when he went there, he said, "I want food cooked by a bawarchi." He didn't like to stay in a hotel. Then he also gives some more details, like about his wife's death, then about his brother who was insane and finally died. So when all these things are told to Mr. Bepin, he gets confused. So Mr. Parimal, he actually confuses Bepin and he is not able to recollect that when he has met this man, he's telling all the things about his life except one thing, that is his trip to Ranchi. So, okay, then he says, okay, somehow he comes away from there, from the market. And then he tells his driver that please drive to Ganga, River Ganga. And he goes to the bank of River Ganga. He tries to console himself, but again and again, Parimal's all the things, they came into his mind and he gets disturbed. Then what happens? He thinks, "I should call Bagchi," because he has went to his house in 58 October. But then he remembers that Mr. Haridas Bagchi has gone to Japan with his family. He is not there. So what to do? Then he remembers the other character, that is Mr. Dinesh Mukherjee. I should go to his house. His house is nearby in Vaninandan Street. But then he remembers that Mr. Dinesh is very sarcastic. He will make fun of him afterwards. So he said, "Okay, I will not go there." And he goes back home. When he reaches home, he still is uncomfortable, though there is AC and he is drinking cold coffee and all, but still he is uncomfortable from inside. So he calls Mr. Dinesh. Now Mr. Dinesh, he confirms that, "Yes, I was there when we went to Ranchi in 58. And he also says, "Have you gone nuts?" That means, are you turning mad or what? You don't remember? We were there in Ranchi. Now Mr. Bepin gets more confused. He starts thinking what to do. And one thing more, when he was at the bank of River Ganga, he just checked his knee also, because Mr. Parimal told him that there was a cut mark, injury mark on his knee. So he tries to remember, because Mr. Parimal, whatever he's telling is all truth, except one thing, that is the trip to Ranchi. Then he may get more confused, and somehow at night he reads the novel and goes to sleep. In the morning when he gets up, he goes to his office as his routine, but in the office he doesn't feel good, because that incident again and again, it is somewhere taking his mind, and he is not feeling comfortable. How it is that he has forgotten all this incident? So Bepin Babu doubts. This is the summary, you can read it. So now when he decides, now when he has come home, in the office, when he is in the office, now what happens in the office? He doesn't feel good. So he comes back from the office to his house. Now, first time in his life this thing has happened, that he was not well. For 25 years he was working very hard in his office. He was a very conscious worker. But now he was not well, and he came home and he lay in his bed. Then servant comes to him and tell him that Mr. Chunilal has come to meet you. Now who is Mr. Chunilal? Mr. Chunilal is friend of Mr. Bepin, a childhood friend. And he is in problem. He doesn't have a job, he doesn't have money. So he comes for asking him to give him a job. But Mr. Bepin has told him that he doesn't have any job and he cannot help him. But still, Mr. Chunilal comes again and again to ask for help. Now what happens? First, Mr. Bepin thinks, I should get rid of Chunilal because he was not feeling well. So he tells the servant to go and tell him to go. And also tell him that I won't be able to meet him, not only today, but for many more weeks. But then suddenly he remembers, why shouldn't I go and confirm with Mr. Chunilal also? So he runs down and he calls Chunilal and straight away asks him. He didn't ask, he talked about anything, formalities or that, and he straight away asked him about the trip to Ranchi. Now Mr. Chunilal is also surprised. He says, how it is? It was I who had done all the reservations. I was a travel agent. That time I was working on basis of travel agent. And in your compartment the fan was not working. So I called an electrician and I fixed up the fan also. You forgot everything. How is it? I think you are not feeling well. What has happened to you? Now Mr. Bepin, he is really surprised because Mr. Parimal, he has told him. Then Mr. Dinesh, he has confirmed, and now Chunilal has also confirmed. Then the injury, there is injury in his knee. So all these things are symbolizing that something was there which he is forgetting. He starts thinking that I am turning mad. He tells Chunilal, because I am doing overwork, very hard work, I have started forgetting because of all these things. So Chunilal tells him, okay, you go and consult a specialist. Then when Chunilal goes away without asking for any job or any money, because he sees that Mr. Bepin is disturbed a lot, then Mr. Bepin calls the doctor. Now when Mr. Paresh Chand, doctor, comes, he observes him and tells him that this is a very strange case of his life. Throughout in his life he hasn't seen such case. People forget, the entire memory is forgetful, but an episode, that is very strange. So he tells him that you go to Ranchi once and you visit all the places again. Maybe you will recollect and you can be okay. Otherwise, I will see what I can do. So Mr. Bepin, like a very good student, he obeys this doctor and goes to Ranchi. Now when he goes to Ranchi, what happened? He goes to all the places. As soon as he gets down on the station, he finds that the places are not acquainted. He hasn't been here. Though he always wanted to go to Ranchi, but he was not in Ranchi. Then he went to all the places, and one place also, Honeydew Fall, where his friend was saying that he had a fall and there was an injury in his knee because of that fall. So he said, okay, I'll go to Honeydew Fall also. Now he goes to Honeydew Falls. And when he goes there, he is unable to remember anything. So what happens? Because of mental agony and tension, he forgets everything and he gets unconscious. So two picnickers from two Gujarati gentlemen, they pick him up and bring him to the hotel and all. And in this way, he comes back to his place. The next day he comes back and he lies in his bed and he starts thinking that now I am going to be mad like my brother and I will also die in the same way. He is in lots of tension, he is not feeling well, so he calls doctor again. While the doctor is coming, during that time, the servant gives him a letter. So that is the envelope which is closed and on it was written confidential. Confidential means to be read by the person for whom it is. So he opens the letter, though he is not feeling well, but still he opens the letter. And as he reads the letter, everything is clear. This letter was from Mr. Chunila, his classmate friend. Now what happened? What is written in the letter? In the letter, Mr. Chunila writes that you, because of your affluence, because you have got lots of money, power, you have changed and you have not helped me throughout when I was facing a difficult time, when I needed your help. You didn't help me. So this all creation, this lapse of memory has been created by me. It is a retribution because of your behavior. I am giving you a punishment because I have imagination. Though I don't have money, but I have imagination. So I have imagined all these. So Mr. Parimal, Mr. Dinesh and Mr. Chunila, they all are together and they have made this conspiracy against Bepin to teach him a lesson. Now Mr. Bepin realizes that he was not turning mad, he was not insane and nothing was happening like that. It was just a skit created by his friend to teach him a lesson. Then Mr. Doctor comes, he tells the doctor, oh, I have remembered everything because he has to act something and he says, I have called you because I fell down and there was a pain in my back, so please give me a painkiller. For that I have called you. He didn't tell doctor about this whole episode which Bepin has played on him. So now you understand. So this is what is the lesson about. So our protagonist is Mr. Bepin. Around him the whole story moves. So this is the summary. You can just go through the summary in detail, it is there. The specialist, then Bepin Babu at Ranchi, Bepin Babu's lie, in the end he lied to. Okay, now the synopsis of the story. Forgetfulness often puts you in a tight spot, but forgetting a part of your life completely may drive you insane. So forgetfulness, if you are having a habit of forgetting, then you can be sometimes in a tight spot. But if you forget only a part of your memory, then it is really, you will think that you are turning mad. Same thing happened. In this story, our protagonist is troubled at his selective lapse of memory. He is the target of a conspiracy which is a humorous take after all. The climax is a bit funny. The ending is funny but interesting and gives him the much needed psychological relief. And he is relieved that okay, he is not forgetting, this was planned against him. So moral, we must try to understand and emphasize with people around us and connect with the common thread that makes us all human. So we should always help our friends and we should try to connect with people, emphasize them. Experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. So experience is a very hard teacher. It is not like us who teach first and then they take the test. It takes the test and then teaches you a lesson. So I hope you have enjoyed this story, a very beautiful story. Now the story in detail, the full story is in detail, the text along with the word meanings. You can go through one by one each slide and you will enjoy the full text. You can see the full text is there. I have given the meanings in red. The words are there in red. You can easily understand when you read it. So this is for you. And this is the letter. Okay. Now we come over to the homework. Who was Parimal Ghosh and what did he remind to Bepin Babu? Now you know who was Parimal Ghosh. Yes, of course. He was the man who we are introduced right in the beginning of the lesson, who comes and tells Bepin Babu that he knows him very well. Okay, and what did he remind to Bepin Babu? He reminded Bepin Babu about the incident about his trip to Ranchi in 58. And when he is not able to recollect, he tells him so many things. So you can note down all those things which Parimal Ghosh tells Bepin Babu. To whom and why Bepin Babu wants to ring up? Whom does he ring up? Yes, Mr. Dinesh Mukherjee. Initially he doesn't want to ring him because he knows that he will make fun of him. But then he calls him. He doesn't want to meet him also because he knows that he was a very sarcastic man. He will make faces, he will make fun of him. So on phone he confirms because he knows that on phone you can only hear the message. You cannot see the expression of the face. That's why he calls him. What proof did he see for Ranchi incident? What proof did he see? Yes, he saw the cut mark in his knee. And he wanted to call Mr. Bagchi also. So these were the proofs which he wanted to confirm. Who was Chunilal? Why did he come to Bepin Babu? Now, who was Chunilal? Already you know, Chunilal was his friend from the school days and they have grown up together. And now Chunilal was in difficulty. He was not having money. He was not able, he was in need of a job. And he used to come to Chunilal asking for a job. Because Chunilal was working in a good office, he thought that he will somehow arrange some job for him. But Bepin did not have a job and he has told him that also. What reason did Bepin Babu told for loss of his memory? What reason does he tell Bepin Babu? That he has lost his memory. Why? Because what happened? What was the reason behind it? What reason did Bepin Babu told for loss of his memory? That he had fallen down. Okay. Then these are the resources which you can go through for the help. Thank you. Have a nice day.